Talking with Jaime Small here, runs Pro Image Electrical down in the beautiful Sutherland Shire of Sydney. On top of that, the way we first met was through Jamie and Rob also run the Electricians Co-op. So it's a community for people to come in and talk everything electrical and business and all that sort of thing. So I guess what we wanted to try and achieve today, Jamie, is, you run a successful electrical business and you're talking with a lot of people, in various forms, and you're really seeking out expertise and, personal and development and personal growth for not only your business, but, as this for the co-op. It's a changing world. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise. So I just wanted to really get you on the call today and talk about marketing, sales, pricing, and delivery and leadership. So before we dive into that, though, mate, what got you here? What's your background? Where'd you grow up? All that sort of thing. If you could start with that, it'd be great.
So my background is probably very different from a lot of people. So I grew up in a lot of places, but mainly the Sutherland Shire, and I had this burning desire to be a professional rugby league player from a very young age, and that was literally all I thought about through my teens, through my early 20s. Was lucky enough to be full-time with the West Tigers and the Canterbury Bulldogs for a few years. I got a little bit preoccupied with my social life and partying and girls and all that sort of thing. My parents moved up to Queensland when I was about 18, so I was down here by myself, so I didn't have anyone to sort of pull the lead and say, pull your head in, you've got an opportunity here. So I remember in 2006, I think it was, when I was playing at the Bulldogs with some pretty high profile players, and there was little old me there, Steve Folkes said, "Jamie, can I have a bit of a chat?" And I kind of knew what was happening, because at the time I had a really bad attitude, and I didn't realise I had a bad attitude until now that I'm trying to teach my kids to have a good attitude. And he sat me down and said, "Jamie, your services won't be required here next year." And in my head, I'm thinking, I couldn't care less. I don't really want to play anyway. I'd already organised a deal to go and play footy in France in 2007. So went over there, had a season over there, had an amazing time with lots of friends and partying and travelling and all that sort of stuff, and had an opportunity to go back the following year. And I thought about it, I was like 26, I think, at the time, and I'm like, I'd never worked full-time. I'd never have a full-time job. I had no money. I was living week to week with my footy money, really living it up, and I thought, I really need to get home. So I flew home, and I literally had a suitcase. I'm not joking. I had no bed, nothing. I was living in a factory in Kurnell, and ironically, I actually live in Kurnell now, living in a factory, rent-free there, and didn't know what I wanted to do. So I spoke to one of my mates, and he sort of gave me a few ideas, and a couple of other mates had finished playing footy, and they referred me to a guy called Darren Stevens, who owns a big electrical company called DDP Electrical. They give him a call, it might be something you might want to do, start an apprenticeship. So I gave him a call, had a half-hour conversation with him about footy, and I started on the Monday, and that's how I sort of fell into electrical. And I worked with him for about 3 years, and I really wanted to sort of test the water in different areas, and went to work for Ben Rafferty Air and Electrical. He's got a big electrical and air conditioning business in Sydney. Worked for him for a couple of years, and after that I thought, I really felt like I needed to be doing something myself. And I just finished my apprenticeship, went back to DDP for 6 months, and started my electrical business, and I'm into year 10 now. So yeah, I haven't looked back. It's been the best thing I ever did, and I suppose I did it at probably the toughest time, because we'd had a mortgage. We just had our second child. My wife wasn't working, and my wife saw how miserable I was going to work every day, and she knew I wanted to work for myself. So she goes, "Just do it." And I suppose when you don't have a plan B, you've got to make plan A work. It just worked. So fast forward 10 years, here we are.
It's funny, isn't it, through sheer necessity and will, it's like, what you're saying is no plan B, plan A's got to be it. Do you think the determination and the training from the football sort of carried through? What was the lessons you learned from the football years that you brought into business?
Well, I listened to a lot of the rock stuff, and he said if it wasn't for his failure in not making the NFL, he wouldn't be who he is today. And I honestly believe that's the same for me. I had a lot of opportunities. I blew every single one of them. And I look at the opportunity I've got now with my business. I'm like, I'm not going to let the same thing happen. So I use it as a motivator rather than poor me. I could have been this, could have been that. I'm like, you know what, I mucked it up and I'll own it. So in terms of, I look back on my attitude like I spoke about before, and it was horrendous. So I suppose I come to work every day with a good attitude, and I say to my kids, I'm like, you're not going to want to work with someone with a bad attitude, and it doesn't take any talent or skill to have a good attitude, so have a good attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk a bit more about one of the quirky things that I liked about Pro Image Electrical is your marketing. You got some pretty bold marketing, the cheeky sort of videos that you guys do, and you involve the whole team. With the noise that's going on around today, and this comes back to failures and also successes, is what do you see at the moment that, what have you tried that works really well, that moves the needle in your business, and what's some of the ones that didn't work so well, and also what are you seeing that other contractors may be doing wrong right at the moment?
I think particularly through Instagram is putting a smile on someone's face, showing that you're not just an electrician, you're a human with a sense of humour, and I'm prepared to take the piss out of myself to promote my business, which you would have seen on our Instagram. I think, a big part of our business is team camaraderie. I come from a footy background and I know what it's like to be part of a good team and a bad team. So I suppose relationships are developed through doing hard things together. So we train together as a team. We try and, obviously COVID's been tough going out, but we do things like go to dinners and lunches and go for beers together. But I think a big part of what we do, which is really good, is training in the morning together. So
this is your home gym. You've put in a gym in your workshop and everything. Is it?
No. So one of our mates has got a gym at Tarrant Point. We haven't started back this year because not everyone's back from holidays, but he's got a gym at Tarrant Point, and we go there on Wednesday mornings before work and rip in together. There's a bit of banter. Everyone's sort of at different fitness levels, but we're pushing each other, and we've got more to talk about at work other than just work. So we're sort of getting fit and healthy together, and I think it's good for your not only your body but also your mind. And in terms of marketing, I think everyone's sort of trying to market the same way. You got your logo, you got your team, and that's it. Whereas with those stupid videos, and I've got a few more in the pipeline that I've been a little bit slack in producing, but if you can put a smile on someone's face, or it goes a long way to allowing them to remember who you are, rather than just another boring professional video. So we did 2 videos early on, a professional one, which is all the trucks and the guys with nothing really silly. Then we did a Call Me Maybe one with our own lyrics.
That was a cracker.
And we mimed it, and that had like 80,000 views, and the professional one had like 5,000. So it got a lot more exposure. And in terms of people giving me negative feedback, there'd probably be 1 or 2 people out of 80,000 who commented going, "You're a dickhead."
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I honestly don't care. So I think that goes a long way to sort of getting your name out there, showing you're human.
You've really hit the nail on the head there. It's really about authenticity, and you've got that cheeky sort of larrikin sort of take, and taking the piss out of yourselves, and that works really well for some people. Like other people, it might be different, but you can be authentic in a different way, and it's really about finding your authenticity and not being afraid to share it with your audience, so that it comes back down to marketing is people want to deal with you if they know, like, and trust you. What's something that you tried that just didn't work? Have you had a flyer drop or something, or like
what was that? Sorry,
like a 25,000 flyer drop that you got nothing from it? Have you had any bad ones?
We've done that. We've done letterbox drops. Although in saying that, though, I thought I did letterbox drops. We had this first year apprentice that seemed to deliver the packages or the flyers really quickly. So I suppose I don't know if they're actually delivered now. He sort of finished on a bad note, so maybe they went in the drain. I don't know, but yeah, we spent quite a bit of money on some letterbox drops in some local areas, and didn't really get any calls. I thought the flyers were really, really good. I think we've wasted a lot of money on Facebook marketing. I don't really see much merit in doing that. I think the best part is there's a movie called Focus with Will Smith, which really highlights, the sort of way I think about marketing. And I think when you see the Pro Image Electrical trucks driving around the Shire where we work, you see a sign, you see some Instagram, you see some Facebook, you type in Google, electrician Sutherland Shire, then we pop up. Then all of a sudden you build credibility because people feels like they've seen you everywhere. So I think it's important, particularly when you're doing building sites, to put your sign up the front, because if you've got 4 or 5 jobs going at the same time, people would think they see you everywhere. And I say to the boys, whenever we're doing a building job in a street, we'll do letterbox drops with our fridge magnets in the surrounding areas, because what that does is, obviously, if the builder trusts us, the people in surrounding areas obviously see us working on a job, so they trust us, and hopefully the people in surrounding areas will as well. So, that's sort of how we operate, and we're not perfect. We're always trying to improve. I'm not super hard on the guys, and we just sort of go with the flow, and things just sort of happen, pretty well. We go pretty well. So, it works pretty good. We come back from the Christmas break, and we had a really, really relaxing break. I sort of get the guys to sort of use as many holidays as they can, so when they come back to work, they're fully recharged, and as next week everyone's fully back, which is exciting. I'll actually go on holidays next week when everyone's fully back, but I don't know. I suppose after this COVID pandemic and lockdown and all this sort of stuff that's been going on, I think my goals and desires have really changed. It's not the material things anymore. It's a lot of the things that are free, and just time with your friends and family, and just having a really good team at work, and hopefully making some money at the same time.
It's interesting. I'm hearing that a lot across business owners we work with, where they might have come to us and they want to build a 100-person empire, and resetting expectations and understanding of what's their real goal in life are, and a lot of them are picking, going, you know what, there's a lot of effort sacrifice for no reason. Do I really need $10-20 million a year income? What, I don't really live on that much. I'm happy with a couple of $100,000, that type of thing. Yeah. So we're seeing that lifestyle change on what business ownership could be and should be, I guess, with that. We talked a bit about marketing. So you got all this exposure. What about sales? What's the things that you do in your business that when you get an inquiry come in, what does that look like?
So most of our new inquiries now are through Google. So we spent a bit of money beginning of last year on SEO through a mate of mine, and he got us up quite high on all the searches that we want. So basically what happens is someone will call my number, because my number's advertised everywhere. I speak to the client, ask them how they heard about us. That's the first thing. I write that down and find out whether it's Google or referral. If it is a referral, I'll text the person who referred them a thank you, because it's always nice to feel appreciated if someone does the right thing by you. So I always do that.
Just on that note, that's a really important thing you've said there. Is you're the owner of the business. You've got a crew of 10, and you personally take all inbound inquiries, yeah?
Yeah.
And then on that is, first thing you're asking is, how did you find out about us? So you're understanding where your market's coming from and all that, which says, hey, things that have been doing well. But the next point is that referral. A quick text message is what I call high touch points. It's so important and necessary to give thanks to people that referred you and all that. That's brilliant. That's really brilliant work.
Yeah, so we do, I suppose a phone call, there's a lot of small talk, and obviously you want to optimise your time. So a text message that's personal rather than a generic one, because people can see straight through a generic text message. So it would just be like, hey Warren, really appreciate the referral with Joe Blog, whatever their name is. I really appreciate it. And that would tend to make them feel, oh, you know what, he appreciates what I've done, I'll refer him again. Whereas if you don't do that text message, they might be reluctant to refer you again because they'd be thinking you didn't even appreciate it. So basically from there I asked them how they heard about us. I used to say, we used to have a female apprentice, and early on in the piece I used to say, how'd you get my number? And she looked at me and she said, you can't say that to people. I said, what do you mean? She goes, maybe you could word it a different way. And that's when I sort of said to them, how did you hear about us? And it's a polite way of saying, how did you get my number? But yeah, so generally what I do is I'll write my diary. I still have a paper diary and I use ServiceMate, and I'll jot down in my diary where they heard about us, and I'll generally ask them what they're looking for, what their time frame is, and I'll go out there personally. Myself or Brad will go out there and look at the job, quote it up, send off the quote, and hopefully do the job.
Awesome. That probably leads me on the next thing is pricing. So we talked about sales and marketing. Is what's your pricing framework? Do you do and charge, or everything's priced like fixed price? What's that look like for Pro Image Electrical?
Okay, so do and charge, I find that any problem I've ever had with a client is always related to do and charge. And I say to the guys at work, I feel like a child when I'm doing a do and charge job and my phone rings. I feel like I need to hide to talk on the phone. Whereas if we're doing a quoted job, it doesn't matter. Like I've obviously got to run a business, and I might be calling the supplier, but I feel like I still need to hide if I'm doing do and charge, because the client or builder's looking at me going, I'm paying you to be on that phone call. Mm-hmm. So I really avoid do and charge. Probably 90% of our stuff is fixed price.
I'm a big advocate for fixed price. It's you can't do and charge your way to success. It's not good for the customer. It's not good for the business.
Yeah. So if we're doing a job for a builder doing his own home, we'll do and charge generally. So we do try and avoid it. There are some jobs that we need to that you don't know what the job is, like a fault find. It's usually a do and charge type situation, and I think the key to do and charge is communication, if you do decide to go down that path. And not only in communication on site, is communication in your invoices. So you can't just put Jamie and Warren this date, 8 hours. I think you've got to bullet point what you've done to sort of justify the 8 hours. So I learned that quite early on from a few mates that sort of taught me a few things, but fixed pricing, I think, the way to go. There's an incentive there as well to get things done quicker and more efficiently and become more efficient. So that way, the quicker you get things done, the higher your hourly rate becomes. So it's a real incentive for us. I don't generally tell the guys at work whether it's hourly rate or quoted. I'm like, just get in there, rip in. And a big thing for us is our Google reviews. After every job, or after most jobs, when it's a new client, I generally ask the client before I send an invoice, just checking to see how everything went and you're happy with our service. And 9 out of every 10 times I say yes. And I say, do you mind if I send you a link to write us a review? And I generally say yes. So I just text them through a link to our Google reviews. I know there's a lot of companies, and ServiceMate do it as well. It's a generic one that just sort of sends after 5 days, and Podium and all those ones. And I think because it's not personal, you're reluctant to click on the link and leave a review. Whereas if it's coming from me or one of the guys, you're like, oh, yeah, right, okay, yeah, I can do that. So that seems to be working really well, and we've got a bit of momentum through that.
That's another one. We talk about that a lot, actually, is, and it's great that these tool sets are trying to go, we'll automate the process. But what they're doing is they're missing out on a very necessary, a high touch point with the customer. And there's no authenticity about it. Like I've got a heap of Mazda vehicles, and you get the card with the Mazda. Did you enjoy our service? Tossed every time. But if the service manager rang me and said, "Hey, could you leave a Google review, for our service? What do you think?" You go, "Yeah, sure, mate, no worries," because it's that personal relationship. Something that's a corporate brochure and corporate branded, or even through like ServiceMate and like you said, it's just automated, and people feel the automation, and it's not genuine. So yeah, it's a really good point that you've made there.
Will pay more for that as well. I say it to a lot of my friends that are through our podcast as well. the electrician's co-op. And if anyone asks me, I'm like, you got to remember, we're not just electricians. We're providing a customer service. And whether you do building work or mum and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Jones style work, you're in somebody's home and you're providing a customer service. And you need to appreciate that somebody's let you in their biggest asset, which is generally their home. They treat it like that and don't treat it like another job at somebody else's home. And I think if you have that mindset, you get a lot more work because people appreciate someone that comes into their home and treats it like their own.
Absolutely, yeah. It's and again, as electricity is one of those things that you can't see it, you can't smell it. It's dangerous. So the person that's coming in taking care of an electrical installation, you want to make sure that they have the best interest for the customer at heart, and so that's where that customer service really kicks in for sure.
I agree.
So you talked about some of the pricing. What's your biggest pricing mistake, I guess, apart from doing charge? Have you really ballsed one up that you could sort of share to go, yeah, this didn't go real well?
Nothing in particular, but I do find when I've got a number in my head and a builder or a customer cries poor, I'm really vulnerable to that. I'm like, I always want to make my price as sharp as possible to look after them. But there's people out there that are pensioners, and there's people out there that don't have money, but there's people out there that have a lot of money and cry poor. So I had this lady actually yesterday. She lives in a building in Cronulla, and the apartments there are $2-3 million each. Anyway, she goes, oh, Jamie, I'm 80 years old, I'm a pensioner, I own my place here outright, but I've got a bad knee, and just wanted to know if you can just come out and swap over a smoke alarm battery for me. And I said, oh, with all due respect, Mrs. Jones, if I send someone out there, I'm going to have to pay them, so I'm going to need to be reimbursed for that. She goes, yeah, but I'm a pensioner. But in my head, I'm thinking she's living in a $3 million apartment, which is a lot more than most people. So I sort of buckled and said, you know what, next time we're in the building, so we actually maintain the building, we'll actually tie it in with something else. So if someone cries poor to me, I generally crumble. I'm not that ruthless in that regard, but yeah, I suppose just stick to your guns. I think that's the only advice I could sort of give. And your price is your price, and as soon as you knock anything off your price, it's your integrity. And if you do that, if you knock money off your price once, they're going to try it again and again and again. Your price is your price, and it's up to you to dictate what you need to earn and what you want to earn. And your price might be more than mine, or mine might be more than yours. It's up to you, and that's your business, and my price is my business.
That's a really good point. As you probably know, if you follow us as well, is we're so big on pricing. Yeah, you've got to know your numbers and stick to your numbers, because as soon as you deviate from that, you're in hot water. Jamie, the next thing I want to talk about is delivery and leadership. Obviously, you've built up a team, and culture I know is really important to you, and obviously your journey from the football through to business ownership and everything, and you've worked with some bad teams and some good teams both in football and business. Walk me through what you're looking for in culture and team building, if you can.
I say to the guys, I know a few footy clubs that I've played at have a no dickhead policy, and I don't care how good a spark you are, if you're a dickhead, you're always a dickhead, and people aren't going to want to work with you. So if you're a good guy with a good attitude, we can teach you our ways. I'm not saying our ways are perfect, but you need to fit in. And with all the guys that we have in our team, whether I work from the first year through to the most experienced tradesmen, I love working with all of them. There's always good chat, there's good banter. We take turns of who's doing the shit job. It's not always the first year in the trench. And I suppose for me, I want to be inspiring to them. I don't want to be that guy that they don't look up to. So I'm trying to do all the right things. I'm working at home. I'm trying to be a good family man. I'm renovating my house while running a business. I've got a good attitude. I want what's best for everyone. I'm very easygoing. If someone needs to duck off early or go do something, I'm really easygoing like that. I'm not pushy, and my attitude is, if you don't get it done today, I trust you. I know you've ripped in. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll rebook. I know you're going to do the right thing. So I think trusting the guys, and I suppose I'm certainly not a micromanager, whereas I want things done my way, I'd be fairly confident by saying if any of us went and did a job, it'd be very hard to tell who did the job. Our work is all very similar. And also our customer service. We've got like a group chat, and I'm not joking in saying this. I'd be getting 2, 3, even 4 emails or text messages a week from new clients saying, thank you for sending out, Nathan or Ruben or whoever. They did an amazing job. Really happy. So I put that on the group chat, and I thank the guys, and it makes them feel good knowing that they're getting the feedback as well, because it's not all about me, it's about us. So, and I think a big thing as well, I think it's important to call it our business, not my business, because we're all part of it. So if I start saying, it's my business, and it's my trucks, and it's my this, it's my that, there's other things, they don't really have much ownership in it.
Yeah. And
I genuinely believe it's our business. So without all the boys, there's no us. So they're a big part of this, like I am, and it's our business, and I think that works really well.
Leadership. Where's one thing that you look back at and you go, oh, geez, I really stuffed up there? Can you share something that was just you're not proud of, it didn't go well, and you should have handled it differently?
Yeah, there's one that springs straight to mind. One of our guys, he's an absolute champion, and he'd only been with us for probably a year, and he did something on a job that wasn't wrong, it wasn't untidy, it's just not the way we would have done it. Anyway, I rang him up, and I was a bit flustered. I was probably, it might have been a chain of events that sort of led to this, but not through him, but, there might have been a few other phone calls before that, which put me in a bit of a bad mood. And I sort of rang him up and said, mate, why have you done it like that? We never do it like that, and we can't change it now. It's too late. So I sort of went on and on and on and on. Anyway, he sort of blew up at me, and I could hear him getting really upset and crying. And I was like, whoa, fuck. Yeah, right, I didn't expect that. Anyway, so I sort of hung up, and I rang one of our senior guys, and I said to Brad, I told him what happened. I said, mate, I feel really bad. And when I see someone else upset, particularly one of the boys, because they're like my brothers, I was starting to well up talking about it. Anyway, I said to Brad, I said, what should I do? He goes, just give me a call. So anyway, I called him back, and he sort of said, yeah, you shouldn't talk to me like that. How do you think that made me feel? So anyway, I went to his job, and I gave him a hug. I bought him the boys a Powerade each. I said, listen, man, I'm really sorry. And what that made me realise was you need to be a chameleon in your management style. So the way I manage Brad versus Jared and Nathan and all the boys, it has to be very, very different, because everyone's got very different personalities. And I think if you say, you know what, this is my management style, if you don't like it, leave, you're going to have a high turnover of staff. So I owned it. I apologised to him, and I now know that I can't have those stern conversations with him. I need to go about it a different way, and I respect that. And I suppose I put the shoe on the other foot, and if that was me, I'd probably bite back as well and be defensive and go, you know what, I didn't know, or whatever I might have said. But I can tend to ramble when I'm upset about something one of the boys has done. And some of the guys really reacted, going, you know what, I get it, I own it, it's not going to happen again. But not everyone's like that. So I think that's the biggest thing. And since then, my management style has been a lot more easygoing, and I'll probably have a few deep breaths before I make that typical phone call.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You say, there's different personalities. And I think, people talk about cultural diversity and other sorts of diversities, but it's really cognitive diversity. You want people to think differently, although you still want the same outcome, and it's really good, standardized product, service delivery, and that's what you're really looking for. But how people reach to that and how they think about it is still got to be their own unique way, and it's so important for that. And I think that's not only you, Jamie, with your marketing and your personality. Each one of your team members, they bring their own authenticity to how they carry out the job and how they do things, and it's really important to have them be able to be comfortable to display that authenticity in what they do. Otherwise, they can't just all be you, that sort of thing. So yeah.
I suppose that comes down to the selection process. you obviously need to be outgoing. You can't be a quiet guy. You need to be polite. You need to be a good communicator. And if you're not those guys, I'll be getting the feedback from the clients and builders saying, he doesn't talk to me, he doesn't tell me what's going on. Yeah. So I either have to have that difficult conversation with them, or someone said to me the other day, how do you sack anyone? I'm like, we never sack anyone. Usually what happens is the team squeezes the guy out.
Yeah.
They feel uncomfortable working in an environment because everyone's so tight, then there's this person in the background or on the outer. So I've rarely asked anyone to leave. They've sort of done it themselves.
Kind of worked out that they just didn't fit in. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I've got high expectations. Like I've spent 10 years building a reputation, and the guys have been part of that for a big part of that journey. So I can't allow somebody to come in and ruin that reputation just because they want a job and they feel entitled. So I won't allow that. And like I said to the boys, I've got a responsibility not only to pay our overheads and my bills and keep food on my table, but I've got a responsibility to keep working so you guys can do the exact same. So if you guys do the wrong thing, it means we're going to have less work and there's going to be less staff. So you do more of the right thing, we're going to have more work and we're all going to enjoy an abundance of hopefully good work.
It's interesting you say that. I had someone say to me, there's a lady, a very intuitive lady, she worked for me for a while, and she said, hey Warren, you're easygoing, however, and it's always the however, and the however, you are very particular. And I think that's a good thing, is that's what you're saying there, is you've got to be particular, you've got to have high standards. You can still be easygoing, but your expectation and what you consider the right thing to do has got to be of a high standard. And if you don't have that with the checks and balances, I just think that's so important. Yeah.
I say to the boys, Warren, if ever in your mind you think it will be right, it's not right. Or if Jamie sees that, it's not right, you know what I mean? So the boys, I think they treat their company or our company like their own, which I hope they do. And, they're good guys and I trust all of them, and I feel like they feel like I trust them. And sometimes they ring me about questions, the way they want things done, and I'm like, I trust you. You just do what you think's right. And I'll stand by that.
It's good to get someone to the point of knowing when they need to ask. That's what I like, is being able to spot something going, I might just get a second opinion here rather than sort of go off blindly. And I think team selection is really important on that.
The good thing about mobile technology and that FaceTime's a brilliant one. So you can pick up the phone and just FaceTime what you can see and go, hey, Brad, Jamie, what do you think about this? How do I get a cable here? Or what do you think I do here? Or how do I fix this fault, With FaceTime, it's almost like having an extra person on site, which is really handy. How
do you set up your vehicles, like with vans and equipment, and, how important is that sort of in the mix of efficiency and productivity? We bang on all the time here about productivity and efficiency. What does that look like for Pro Image Electrical?
So I'll give you an example. So a guy that I know, I won't mention his name, he had a substantial business in Sydney. Anyway, I sort of looked up to him for a number of years, and he went into liquidation. So I rang him up just for some advice. He's a bit older than me, he'd be in his 50s, I'd say. And I rang him up and said, is there any advice you can offer me after what you've just been through? And the first thing he said was, do not overcomplicate things. We're electricians. And a few of my mates use SynPro, and they know exactly what stock they got in the car, and they know their purchase orders. I honestly believe, depending on how big your team is, of course, and if you've got people stealing and you don't trust them, I get that. But I think that is overcomplicating it. I think there's a point where there's merit in doing that. But at my size, we've got 8 guys, so I don't think there's any merit in doing that. I think it will cost more money than what you'll save. So in terms of, there's expectations, what the guys should have in their vans, what sort of stock. We utilise the delivery system at the wholesalers as much as possible rather than going to the wholesaler. Generally, the guys in the morning will swing past the wholesaler and grab a few things or get it dropped off, or I'll drop it off. But I'm easygoing like that. Like, I'm not running this, I'm not running I don't even know how to describe it, like this.
You're not building an F-35 fighter jet.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I'm easygoing. If you need to make an extra trip to the wholesale, do it. Or if someone's coming past one of the boys and they can pop in the wholesale and drop something off, do that. Like, I'm not super organised. I don't put too much pressure on anyone. I just sort of go with the flow a bit, Warren. I'm pretty cruisy, eh?
I think it comes back down to, what you're saying about people and giving them a responsibility. It's really about distributed leadership, and whether it's football team or like in football or particularly soccer, is when you see a professional soccer team play, they stay in their position, and they move very little. But when the ball enters their space, they're not rushing towards everything and all that sort of thing. And I think if you got the right team, this is my experience, is if you empower those team members to have distributed leadership, so they take on responsibility for what they're doing, planning their day, they're going to do a better job of it than you are because they understand it intimately. And it's being able to have that level of measure of trust and also building your team members up to take on that responsibility. If you try and micromanage, is all I see is people switch off. They're not thinking about the job.
I really agree with that, and it's evident with the apprentices that go through Jaime TAFE, which is the TAFE in our local area. They all kill it. They're absolutely murdering TAFE because they're forced to problem solve. Like, I'm not always on the phone. I'm like, no, work it out yourself. If there's something you might muck up, ring me. But have a think about it, because I think as tradesmen, you become really, really good problem solvers in all aspects of your life. And there's more than one way to run a cable. You work out what's best for you. And once you do it one way, you might work out there's a more efficient way later. And the way I do something is maybe not so good, and the way one of the other guys does it a little bit better. I say to the boys, like, learn how we all do it and you pick your way. It's not up to me to tell you how to do it. As long as the final outcome is there's a PowerPoint on the wall, there's a light fitting, or there's a switchboard done, as long as the outcome's the same, how you get there, I don't really care, as long as it's neat and done correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good leadership lesson, and what that allows is exactly what you're saying. So you don't have to be as rigid for stock control and all that, because you trust the guys. You're trusting that they're being good with material, good with customers, everything else about your business. Otherwise, you'd be this frantic mess having to worry about everything yourself. You'd never be able to take holidays. You'd never be able to go away and leave your team there going, we got this. Yep, you go, enjoy yourself, we got this. And that's what you want in a team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I say it to a lot of my mates. I say, small business will consume you if you let it.
Yeah.
We all start a small business to earn good money and have freedom. But how many of us do have freedom? It's because a lot of guys are micromanaging their business. You don't need to. Like, if stock is going missing, yeah, there might be an opportunity to start counting cable and PowerPoints and all that in your vans. But if it's not, and things are going well, you're making money, there's no need to do it. And if you trust your guys, I think they'll show they don't want to lose your trust. So, and I say to the guys like with the vans, I'm like, if you need to take the van somewhere and drive, just go. But just tell me. If you're going to do a job on the weekend for your auntie or uncle, just tell me, because someone will ring me and say, they've seen one of the vans out of Penrith or whatever anyway, so you may as well just tell me first. Yeah. I don't care, just tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, one other thing I want to ask you is, you're an avid person for personal and professional development. What are you reading right at the moment?
I'm actually reading a Bear Grylls book with the kids. It's about his life and about how he got to where he is. And we're reading it chapter by chapter out loud with my two kids.
That's awesome.
Not only are they learning how to read better, but I'm getting so much out of it. I'm right into, I'm obsessed with self-help. At the moment, I've mentioned on our podcast before, I do this, it's an app called Think Up, and it's an affirmation app where you listen to affirmations in your own voice. And I looked the other day, I'm up to 500 hours of listening to myself ramble on in my earphones of my own voice telling me about how good I am.
Oh, that's really gold, Jamie. That's really gold.
Drills, and my go-to book is Think and Grow Rich. So whenever I haven't got anything to read, I'll read that book.
It's funny, reading that multiple times is, anything by Napoleon Hill, and prior to that he had the 16 success principles, and that's another one that's been a go-to for me over the years. Is there's so much there that you can rediscover by reading all that sort of material. So in terms of professional development, do you have any sort of routine that you go through, Jamie, in learning, seeking out different material? What does that look like for you, your whole process?
Yeah, so any moment I have in the car, I'm listening to something educational. I know you can have YouTube, because I have the premium YouTube, so you can have YouTube videos playing with the screen off. So I'll generally listen to those while I'm driving. I've got a sauna at home, so whenever in my sauna, I'm either meditating or listening to my affirmations. I've got a morning routine that I go through every single morning. I exercise daily, or sauna, or walk. I try and get my feet on the ground. I earth my pillow when I sleep. I do all sorts of wacko things, but I suppose the big thing that I'm really trying to target in on this year is my diet. Just sort of become more organic and stop eating things out of boxes and start eating things out of the ground and off trees. So really trying to be really strict with that. Big thing is getting my feet on the ground as much as possible and reconnect with the earth. Meditation, just trying to tick every box this year. I'm really trying to become more spiritual this year.
Oh, very good. It's funny, my wife and I, obviously my kids are older and all that sort of thing, we often, we're in Brisbane, we drive down to northern New South Wales. There's Dreamtime Beach. It's 15 kilometres of beach at Kingscliff. So we'll take the dog down, drive down there, walk along the beach, and just something about near the ocean and getting your feet on the ground. And for 2 years, we've not been able to do this. It's crazy. You don't realise until kind of now, obviously the Queensland, New South Wales borders come down. We still haven't been down as yet. It only come down last week, but I'm really looking forward to that. I really miss that. Although we went other places and walked around, something about that place there is just that reconnecting to that particular area. For some reason, it lifts you up. Absolutely lifts you up.
At footy, we used to talk about the 1%ers, and those little 1%ers add up to something big, and they have a compounding effect in your life. And I think by making those little 1% decisions every day, by putting your feet on the ground, exercising, eating well, reading a self-help book, listening to positive stuff on your phone while you're driving, or on the radio, podcasts, all that sort of stuff. You fast forward 20 years or 10 years, it has a massive impact on your life. I say to my kids, I'm like, you go to the gym once, you home, look in the mirror, you see nothing. You go twice, 3 times per week. It's not until like a couple of months you start to see results. It's the same thing if you eat that burger. Once, twice, 3 times, no effect, but eventually it will catch up with you. And it's the same thing in a positive way. You do enough of those good things every day, which will become your daily routine, that has a positive impact in your life in a massive way.
Hey, look, it's been a great chat this morning, Jamie, and I realise you're inside of the car, pull over and stuff like that, but do you have any final thoughts?
I suppose one thing that I sort of live by, and it's successful people make habits out of doing things they don't want to do. And I'm not claiming I'm successful or any of that, and I live by that, and I'm trying to improve every day, but I think about that every day. And I actually, in that Bear Grylls book I was reading last night, he said when he doesn't feel like doing something, what he does is commit to 3 minutes of it. And what he means by that is like, I don't feel like picking up that book. And what he'll do is he'll pick up that book and he'll commit to 3 minutes of reading that book, or going to the gym, or going for a walk,
and it turns into 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So commit to 3 minutes of doing something that you don't want to do, and before you know it, 3 minutes becomes half an hour or an hour. So just commit to 3 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Oh, hey, Jamie, really appreciate you coming on and having a chat this morning and sharing your thoughts on, marketing, sales, pricing, delivery, and leadership. It's been a great chat. And again, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us. And have a good rest of your day.
My pleasure, Warren. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Cheers.